Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. It's that time of weekend, everybody's favorite, the power rankings. The Sunday night game between the St. Louis Cardinals and the Chicago Cubs just finished the seventh, where the Cubs had a chance to take the lead, still 2-2 going into the eighth. But following the past couple weeks, I'm going to start doing the power rankings at this time on Sunday night, just so it's out and people can watch it Sunday night while they're getting ready for bed with work the next day. Just two announcements to lead this off before we jump into it. Number one, I am getting married in 2 days. So, hopefully you guys who know me have already known that, but otherwise just want to throw that out there. It's going to be a good time 2 days from now. Follow me along on Twitter, stuff like that. Other than that, my other announcement is if you guys are interested, I do run some sort of like personal development, growth, that kind of stuff on the side. If it's that something you guys are looking forward to, like setting goals, working with a group, I'm putting together an accountability group of people who are interested, looking for like 6 to 8 people that want to kind of set some goals and find a group of guys that they can share those with and kind of build a community that way. So if you guys are interested, let me know. Join the Discord below and message me there, or you can message me on Twitter. Without further ado, let's get into it. Number 30, same spot as last week. Can't really move them up. We have Kansas City Royals. They went 0-3 against Cleveland, 1-2 against Houston. Royals, I think, have the absolute worst record in the league, but it's hard to say because I don't keep super close track of that. But Royals, staple at the bottom right now. Number 29, dropping a couple of spots. 0-3 against Houston, 0-3 against Boston. Kind of expected the A's to be here earlier in the season, but they'd been putting up a fight and kind of holding on into the upper echelon for a little while. But after back-to-back weeks, I think they picked up one win over those 2 weeks. A's are pretty much down there, and we don't really expect them to be much better than that. They're going to be a staple last place in that division for quite some time. Number 28, we got the Cincinnati Reds. They went 1-1 against Boston, 1-3 against Washington. So after being somewhat hot after that terrible streak they went on, and by hot for the Cincinnati Reds, I mean 500, they're back to their old ways. And they're a staple in the bottom of the Central National League side. And we don't expect them to make any ground up in that division, really. So until next year, they're pretty much out of it at this point. And we're going into June, right? Number 27, moving up a couple of spots with the Washington Nationals. They went 0-3 against the Mets, top of the league, really. But they did go 3-1 against Cincinnati to bump them up a couple of spots. They were a staple in the bottom. Staple is the word of the power rankings, by the way. They were at the bottom for a couple of weeks in a row there. They've worked a couple spots up, and they're trying to compete, but most times than not, they're giving up a lot of runs, and that's the problem with the Nationals. They do manage to score quite a bit of runs along the way. So against the worst, they can definitely pick up some wins. Number 26, Detroit Tigers. They went 4-1 against Minnesota. So against top of the Central, played 5 games early in the week. They went 4-1, but then they got smashed over the weekend by the Yankees. They had a chance to take today's game, but the Yankees came back in that. So the Yankees red hot swept them. Detroit, another one of those teams. I think almost all of these teams except the A's have had a staple time at the bottom, but Detroit's kind of working their way up. I've talked about this before in the past power rankings, how Detroit was kind of expected to maybe take a step forward, especially in the division they were in this year, and right now it doesn't look like that's the case. And I think given that they're in the bottom row, playoffs are all but a dream at this point. Number 25, got the Colorado Rockies, 2-1 against Miami, but then they got smoked over the weekend by Atlanta, getting swept. And after somewhat of a decent April, and they were in the conversation, and I think all of April they went without losing a series, they've really fallen off. And in probably considering one of the best divisions in baseball, and now they're in last, no ground really they can make up to make a playoff spot. Injuries have been somewhat of an issue with Bryant being out. A lot of new guys making names for themselves on the Rockies, and the pitching, people like Marquez aren't pitching the way they have in the past. So a lot of concern with the Rockies, what they plan to do going forward. But yeah, number 25. I think this is a long time coming. Like I remember going into last season, everybody expected them to be last out of the gate. They actually put up quite a bit of a fight for most of the season. I think this is a new low for them over the past 2 years. Number 24, we got the Chicago Cubs. They went 1-2 against Milwaukee. They're playing Game 5 against Cardinals right now. They've split it up until now. They're tied right now in the 8th. But I don't think the outcome's going to make a difference today for the Cubs. Cubs they're a super interesting team. They start the season doing all right and okay, they might have a shot at doing something, and then they do terrible, get well below 500. And now they're 500 this week, and against good teams, they're putting up fights. So against Brewers and Cardinals, they're not an easy win. A lot of question marks for me with this Cubs team. Who's going to be a big part of it going forward? They're definitely in that rebuilding stage, so a lot of these guys are trying to make a name for themselves, and they are. We'll see if they can maybe get a streak going, or they're going to go. I don't really see them falling to the bottom here. They're probably at their low right now, and there was a chance for me to put them up a little bit, but I'm going to give them another week and see when they start playing some guys in their range. Because against the Milwaukee and the Cardinals this week, those are two top 10 teams. And the losing records kind of expect, really. Number 23, same division, same kind of story. We got the Pittsburgh Pirates. They went 3-0 against the Dodgers. Big surprise. And then 2-1 against Arizona. The thing with the Pirates is they had a winning week, but if you look at the run differential of teams throughout the MLB, they're minus 76 or something. They're well minus compared to other teams that are in the same win percentage as them. So I'm not quite sure how to read into that other than they've been blown out a lot, and when they win, it's by 1-run games. And you saw it against the Dodgers this week. They squeezed out some low-run wins, but they're winning. And some of their guys, like Brian Hayes, having good seasons. So, got to be kind of excited if you're a Pirates fan. 22. We got the Baltimore Orioles. 1-2 against Seattle, 1-2 against Cleveland. They did start the week off with one game against Boston, which they won, which actually capped the whole 5-game series they had over the weekend, which they won 3-2. But then they kind of lost both series to Seattle and Cleveland, which were teams that were pretty much in the same area code as them on the power rankings, and they lost both. And given how the rest of this division is winning and all above 500 or 500, we expect them to not have a shot at the playoffs. And at this rate, they're not really beating up on any teams in the whole league, let alone some of these bottom guys that might win the games, but they're not beating them up too much. 21. We got the Miami Marlins. 1-2 against Colorado, 2-2 against San Fran. They're pretty much the definition of average at this point and not really going on streaks. They had that one win streak of 9 at one point. I think it might have got 10, but it was 9 early on in the year. People were giving me crap on the power rankings that I had them too low. I think I had them around 15, but I think this is pretty much where they're going to be. Other than the Nationals, they have a lot of work to do to make up ground in this division with 3 pretty much juggernauts ahead of them. Much better teams on paper and at least record-wise too. So we don't see Miami really making too much steps past there. Number 20. We have the Texas Rangers, 2-2 against Tampa, 1-2 against Seattle. So I had them earlier in the week up around 18, fell back down a little bit, but I gotta admit, they're performing above expectations. I think they were starting out the season near the bottom row, slowly working their way up. They have pretty close to a positive run differential. If it's not positive, it's close to it. And they're in a division where the Angels have really crept the bed and they've come really close. I know in the rankings-wise, I have them below Seattle, but in standings-wise, they are ahead of them. They played this weekend, like I said, and Seattle won. So that's pretty much the difference there. Number 20. We got the Cleveland Guardians. 3-0 against Kansas City, 2-1 against Baltimore, taking care of business against teams worse than them. They had been up here, they've been slowly falling back, and then they get a chance to play some weaker teams, and they take care of it. Cleveland's got to be excited. It's a division that's technically for grabs, like Minnesota, even though they won the series coming up, they're not running away with it, and Chicago's really struggling, so Cleveland definitely has an opportunity here, being the middle team at number 19. Not quite out of the playoff. We're going to start talking about teams that probably right here that technically are still in this hunt, very lively. Number 18, we got the Arizona Diamondbacks, 2-1 against Atlanta, 1-2 against Pittsburgh. Pretty much 500 week, and they're pretty much in exactly a 500 spot. Nothing to write home about with this one. Pretty much that. Number 17, we got Seattle. 2-1 against Baltimore, 2-1 against Texas. So after falling to probably a season low, they've come back with back-to-back series wins, which is much needed. And Mitch Haniger's on his way back, which would be a much needed boost to this lineup. They were doing so fire when he was in there and then he went down. They've been struggling pretty much since, which I don't expect Haniger to make that big of a difference, but so far he has. Expect Seattle to kind of turn it on over the next little bit to show whether they're a playoff team or not. Between them and Texas, one of these teams is going to fall out, I assume, and the other team's going to try to make a name for it. I don't know if they're going to be able to make that push or not, but maybe they will. 16, Chicago White Sox, 0-3 against Toronto, and then they won the series against the Rays, 2-1. But struggling in the early week series against Toronto, they just gave up a lot of runs, and Toronto started to turn on their offense, but they also couldn't score a lot of runs. It's been an injury-plagued season for Chicago so far, and they've got to be very disappointed with how it's been, below 500. But you never know. This team is in a division that's going to play more games against the Royals, more games against the Tigers. They're going to be able to pick up on the Indians, or the Guardians, hopefully a little bit. So they do have that going for them. If anything's going to happen with the White Sox, I think they're going to have to sneak into that last final wild card spot. But we're only in June, so that leaves us 4 months to be able to have a turnaround. They're more than capable. They're a very talented organization. Same kind of story with this team, number 15, Boston. 1-1 against Cincy, 3-0 against Oakland, and I already talked about how they lost to Baltimore early in the week. Boston, back to 500. They've got to be excited about that, but the work has just started. They're half a game up, I believe, on that last wildcard spot, now that the Angels have lost, 10 in a row. I still do have them behind the Angels, who are next at number 14. Angels, like I said, 10-game losing streak. They went 0-3 against the Yankees. They went 0-3 against Philly over the weekend. I kept thinking Toronto, but I know they played last weekend, so I tried to figure that out. So another 0 week for the Angels, and they were in the top 10. They had a pretty big fall here, probably one of the biggest falls of the week. Didn't quite get them past Boston, even though they fell out of that playoff spot. They technically have a worse record than Boston. I just think I'm not going to hold them complete -10 win streak against them, although Trout's been super struggling. Rendon's out with an injury. They got Ward out with an injury. They're starting to have some injury problems. Could very well be one more week. Even if it's a 500 week, they'll drop past Boston if Boston continues to play well, because Boston's getting more healthy. They have Sale coming back after all soon. Number 13, Philadelphia Phillies. Just talking about how they swept the Angels. Went 1-2 against San Francisco. They're still underperforming. So after that series with San Francisco, Joe Girardi got canned. Not surprised with a team like the Phillies, who been like 500 for like a couple seasons in a row, and they're well below 500 this season. And with this lineup, some of their pitchers that they got, it's unacceptable. And management took the fall for it. We'll see if the bounce back happens. It happened so far, 3-0 against the Angels, but it's the Angels who were completely struggling. We'll see what is in store with Philly this week coming up. Number 12, we got the Atlanta Braves, 1-2 against Arizona before sweeping Colorado 4-0. Braves and Phillies have just been like beside each other all season long. Expect one of these guys to really break out and say, I'm going to be the one threatening for the wild card, because at this rate, both of them can't take it. So only one of them is going to even have a shot, in my opinion. So they're going to fight it out between the two of them. Number 11, San Francisco Giants, 2-1 against Philly, 2-2 against Miami. A little bit above 500 of a week. Trying to stay ahead in this wild card race against teams like that. Division's tough. They're not going to win it. Got two teams ahead of them that are much stronger and performing much better. So don't expect that to change. But right now, solid spot in the wild card, and that's what they are going to be hoping for. Number 10. Tampa Bay Rays, 2-2 against Texas, 1-2 against Chicago White Sox. A little bit of an average week. Seems like every time someone comes back for the Rays, someone else is going out. And with the way the division is, they don't really have time to stumble. The Yankees have pretty much run away with it at this point. Jays have been very hot over the last 10. So if they don't if they don't keep winning above 500, before we know, Boston will be in the hunt. And it'll be a 14 race yet again in the American League East, and really it's going to be a 3-team race, only fighting for wild cards. And we might see both wildcard teams come out of the East. I guess that's not a surprise at all. Maybe there was 3 wildcard teams now, right? Number 9, St. Louis Cardinals, 3-0 against the Padres early on in the week, which is a huge series win. But I just couldn't use that one series, even though it's against a team better than them, to boost them up too far. I want to see it consistent, and right now, it's not. They went 2-2 against the Cubs. They're playing right now. It looks like the Cubs took the lead, if I can see that right. So they might fall to a 2-3, which makes it even more sense that they're number 9. They need to make up some ground. They're not division. They're a couple games out from the division. That's where they want to see it. We'll see how that goes for them. Number 8. We got Toronto Blue Jays, 3-0 against the White Sox, 1-2 against the Twins this weekend. It was an interesting weekend against the Twins. They gave up a ton of runs. The Twins offense really crushed them. So that was a little bit of concern. Gausman did not perform well. Barrios got the 1 win coming back to Minnesota, so that was good to see. But otherwise, Toronto, they're a little bit hot. They have to keep this momentum going this week for me to really be happy and solidify them being an 8th. If they don't keep this momentum going, we'll see them start falling back down because these other teams below them, they're not going to keep the 500 game going. So momentum is going to be the name of the game for Toronto. Number 7, team that took care of them this weekend. 2-1 against Toronto, like I just said. They went 1-4 against Detroit, which a little bit concerning, but overall, I didn't want to punish them for that one series. They've had a great year so far. They've been able, for the most part, to take care of those teams that are below them, like Detroit. They got a little bit of a lead in this division, so playoffs look like all but certainty for Minnesota. 4 months to go, of course, but it's looking good. Their pitching's managing and done, and a nice big series win against Toronto. I liked to see that. Definitely, if you're a Twins fan, showing that you can beat those teams that you're right there neck and neck with. Number 6, we got the Milwaukee Brewers, 2-1 against the Cubs, 1-3 against the Padres. So yeah, a little bit of concern. I do have a little bit of concern when it comes to the top teams, whether the offense of the Brewers are going to be able to get it done. Padres squeaked it out. The pitching in Milwaukee's always been good. The bullpen's super strong. So we saw it early in the Cubs series. When they played the doubleheader, closed it out closely. But yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I think if it wasn't for them being able to beat up on Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, and the Cubs so often, their record would maybe not be as good. We'd be looking them more kind of in the 11 through 14 area. We'll see what they can do when they keep playing some of these more top 10 teams in MLB. Number 5, we got the Houston Astros, 3-0 against Oakland, 2-1 against Kansas City. Houston just continues to perform very well, and they beat up on the 2 bottom teams, went 5-1 on the week. So a little bit of boost for them. But we need to see them. It's been a while, it seems like, since we've seen them play some of the top teams in the American League. And last I remember, they were losing to the Jays. They lost some of those other teams. So really what stopped them from being a top 3 is losing those ones. So we're going to keep an eye on Houston and how they perform once they run into some of the top 10 teams in the league. Number 4, San Diego, 0-3 against Cardinals, 3-1 against Milwaukee. So a little bit of a stutter step early in the week, but they've been fire other than that one series again. I've kind of said that a couple times this week, but they've been pretty fire, and they're in that tough division one, that wild card spot. Expect them to keep fighting, fight their way. They want top spot. They think it's possible, and very well could be, because number 3, we have the Dodgers, who had a little bit of a stutter step early in the week, going 0-3 against the Pirates before being at home against the Mets and splitting that series. It was a very good series. They did get out 2-0 early. They won both the first 2 games against the Mets. The Mets fought back Saturday and Sunday, picking up the next 2 wins, which really, to me, gives them the edge to show that when they're down, they fought back, and on the road, nonetheless. So that's what gives me the Mets number 2. 3-0 against Washington earlier in the week. The Mets, without Scherzer, continue to steamroll. The offense is there. Mets fans have got to be jacked with what this team can do. I know after suffering from it last year, got to be pumped up about that. And then that leaves us with number 1, I think 5 weeks in a row now, 6 weeks. New York Yankees, 6-0 week. How can you even knock them down? 3-0 against the Angels, 3-0 against Detroit. Yankees are the top team in MLB right now. And it's hard to say that they'll be beat. It's even possible we're going to see records if they continue to win at the rate they are winning at. So there you have it, guys. Updated power rankings. Let me know what you guys think. What would you switch up? What are some of my flaws that you might think in this video? And guys, if you guys are interested in joining up in the community, check out below Discord with Ed Rowan. Hope to see you guys out there. Thanks for watching. Peace out.